What's your funniest story from your time working in the industry?
Oh my god, are you sure you want me to answer this question? Because it's full on.
The funniest story. I have so many.
God, there's been so many.
I have a lot. I'm gonna have to think about this for a sec.
I'll say my go-to story, which does shock a lot of people.
There's so many. Oh my gosh, I have so many great stories. And every time I tell them, everyone's like really excited. Like, oh my gosh, that's a thing. I'm like, of course it's a thing.
People have got different fetishes and they're, I wouldn't say funny, but certainly different as well. So yeah, people are just, sex brings out the best and the worst in us.
All I can think of right now, bit gross but funny, is when a guy shit his pants at the strip club. And apparently he does it regularly. He comes in, does lots of drugs, drinks a lot, and then shits his pants and leaves. So yeah, that's all that's coming to mind right now.
I have too many. The funniest. Okay, I guess the funniest would be the first really funny conversation and then booking that I had. So I'm walking in and he's like, oh, I have this special request, so I don't know if it's something for you, but I want to book 2 girls. And I have a balloon fetish. I'm like, oh, balloon fetish. Like, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, well, it's fun, like, it's easy, and it's balloons, party balloons, like black balloons, green, red, yellow party balloons. I'm like, oh, okay. So then he ended up booking me and another girl, and he brought this bag. He brought this bag of just balloons, Mickey Mouse shaped balloons, all colors. And then he sat at the edge of the bed and said, oh, here, just take the balloons and start blowing them up. Just have fun with it. Just blow the balloons up, throw them in the air, and sit on them, rub them against you, throw them to each other. And so we started doing that. And he's like, okay, that's enough balloons just blown up on the ground now. Can you now take one and start blowing it up, but to the point where it's nearly bursting? So you blow the balloon up and it gets bigger and bigger, and then at the point where it popped, he got a little fried, and that was the excitement. So you sit there, oh my god. So then it was funny because I had never seen something like that before. And I mean, like, good on him. If he's happy and it doesn't hurt anyone, so who am I to judge? Like, if that's his thing, like, was like, so yeah, and that was the whole booking. It was 1.5 hours of just blowing up balloons, popping them, or popping them with our butts, so sitting on them like that, throwing them around, rubbing them against us, and that was it. It was funny.
So this is like when I worked in the agency. So I don't know, I was probably like a month or 2 into working, and I had never, I hadn't experienced like a lot of like kinks or fetishes. And I went to this one house, and this guy had every drug you could possibly imagine, like, scattered throughout their house, and they were on it. And they were so scattered that they're like, oh, do you want me to show you a trick? And I was like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, they had a sex swing in like their spare room, and I was like, yeah, I'm kinky, I like this stuff. We never used it, thank God. And I had never heard of sounding. So you look at me like, well, what the hell is that? So sounding is like urethra play. So you put like something down the penis. So I'd never like physically experienced it in real life. Like, I've seen it and I've heard of it, but I've never it's never something I've done or watched. And this guy was so off his head on drugs, you can only imagine. And I was like, he's like, I can stick a glow stick down my penis. And I was like, what? Like, he's like, you want to see it? And I was like, No, not really, because that doesn't sound safe. Like, his place was a mess. He was on drugs, and he's like, I'm just going to do this. So he found a glow stick on the floor, of all places, cracked it so it was lit up, didn't have lube or anything, and just forced it down. Like, fully forced it down. And I was like, ow, like, I don't even have a penis, but I can feel that pain. And I get, like, some people will get enjoyment, but, like, there was no preparation. There was, nothing was safe. So, like, for me, that's a turn off. And then he's like, can I put a condom on and fuck you with it in? My face went so white. I was like, hell no. I was like, that is super unsafe. You would damage yourself. I was like, I literally terminated the booking on the spot. I was like, I was done. I was like, I'm tapping out. No, like.
There's so many. Oh my gosh, I have so many great stories, and every time I tell them, everyone's like really excited. Like, oh my gosh, that's a thing. I'm like, of course it's a thing. Fuck. I have so many that I love. Okay, sorry. All right, let me think. Oh, all right. Fuck. Well, when I lived in Sydney in 2017, yeah, and that's when I got with a lot of straight dudes. That was amazing. I was like, fuck, I didn't know I was so powerful. Anyway, you know what I mean? These guys, there was one guy in particular who would pay me he would wank furiously. He wouldn't let me touch him. He was a married straight man. He had kids and all, and he'd just like come all over his dining table, and all he wanted me to do was crawl up on it like a little cat and lick it all up, and he'd pay me. I was like, okay, whatever. That was easy money. So I'm like, I didn't have to like touch you. There was another one where I met this really big, like, he was large. He was a huge man, and he was old. He was like almost 70. He was the biggest gentleman, like such a sweetheart. And he took me he told me to meet him at a restaurant in New York. And when I went to this restaurant, the guy at the door was like to me, sir, did you not know there was like a dress code or something like that? And I was like, I beg your pardon, this is a fucking restaurant. What do you mean? There's a dress code to enter this restaurant? Meanwhile, I was wearing Valentino, like full designer, so I was a little bit offended. But anyway, I was like, excuse me? It was a t-shirt and my tattoos were exposed, so I think that's what he meant. And I was like, no. And I said I had a reservation, and I said the person's name, and he said, disregard what I just said, please come in. So I was like, okay. So I went in and I sat down and I'm waiting, and he finally rocks up, and that's when I realized he must be some big shot, because like everyone that worked at the restaurant knew his name. You know, they grabbed his coat, he had a walking stick, they took care of him, and he walked over to me. I was like, oh my gosh. It was really awkward because like I didn't know what to talk about. The meals were like really small servings. It was just like, okay. There was like a grand piano in this like restaurant. It was full on, you know? And I felt really uncomfortable. I was like, yeah, this is not really my kind of, you know, scene. I remember on my plate, there was like this like squiggly thing, like this weird shit. And I didn't know if it was decoration or if it was food. And I ate it, and it was weird. And he goes, oh, you know, you didn't have to eat that. I think he knew that I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, what was it? And it was like that thing on like the rooster, that red bit. It was so fucking weird. I was like, great, okay. I'm vegetarian now, by the way, so I wouldn't eat that today. Anyway, so he took me back to his place, and this is when I was really new. Like I told you, I started it in 2017, so I didn't know like ground rules or, you know, boundaries. I didn't know you had to discuss shit beforehand. So he took me back to his place, and he lived Actually, I won't say it because I can't say. He lived somewhere really amazing on Fifth Avenue, and we went up to the top, and amazing view of New York City, and I could see the Empire State on one side. I could see Central Park. It was just gorgeous. He got naked, and I'm just standing there. I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I gonna bottom for him? I don't know. What's he into? Fuck. He got full naked, and I couldn't see his face because his back was to me. And when he turned around, he had like a pig's nose on. And he asked me to fist him. And I've never fisted anyone before. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I'm getting paid for this. So whatever he's gonna do, wants, I'll just do. And I started fisting him, and he started squealing like a pig. Like, I kid you not, when I got into like about there, it was like full on. It was like, it sounded like 10 pigs getting attacked. I'm trying not to laugh throughout the whole experience. Is this story too much? Okay. I'm trying not to laugh, so I'm just looking out on this gorgeous view of like the Empire State. I'm like, fuck, this is beautiful at night, all lit up. I'm like thinking, I can't believe I'm seeing this gorgeous city and there's like this human being squealing like a pig. You know, I'm in him like this. Anyway, I think he came. I don't know if he came because he was like, he was a big guy. He was heavy and I couldn't see much. He just like pulled himself out. And he just did like this really loud like sound, and he kind of pointed over to like these drawers. There was no human interaction. I really felt like I was with a real pig, and there was like no words spoken. You know, I went over to this drawer and there was an envelope, and I got it, and I don't remember much because I was like, it's like a blur now a little bit because the feelings and the emotions that were going through me at that point, I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And I get in the lift and there were people in there and I felt like everybody knew what just happened. I felt like it was written on my forehead. The paranoia, I'm just standing there with this envelope going down. I'm like, can this fucking hurry up? It felt like the lift took like an hour to get down. And I told my friend what happened, and that's when, because this is the guy I was seeing over there, and he did porn, and he's like, you gotta, lay down all these rules and discuss what's gonna happen beforehand and everything. And I'm like, I didn't know it worked like this. Like, I thought I had to do whatever they wanted to get monies. And then he was like, hang on, wait, the money, how much did you get? I'm like, oh, fuck. I totally forgot because I was freaked out by everything, We started counting and it took ages. Like, okay, mad. It was a lot of monies. It was the most I ever made from one person. So that was sick. Oh my gosh. I wish that could happen to me again. I was in my 20s though. So, yeah.
Honestly, there's endless. I get a lot of stupid questions and things like that from a lot of cis men that have never experienced my sort of body before. It does go over my head, like I don't really let it affect me, but I do get a lot of guys saying dumb things. One guy said, he asked if my vagina was gonna close over and when I was gonna, when's my dick gonna form? And I was like, sorry?
One of my favorite performances that I've ever done, I did it for a polyamorous dating event. I was a performer for that, and I got the opportunity to dance on their bar at the bar that I was performing at. So they had a bar that I got onto towards the end of my performance, and I'm stripping, I'm taking my clothes off. There's a woman sitting at the bar here, and I slowly slide down into a split, right face crotch level. And as I hit that split, I heard her audibly moan, and it was just the best moment of my life. I was like, I've made it.
So I managed a brothel in Sydney, and these bunch of footballers turned up to the front door, and I was in PVC pants and a white mesh singlet, spray tan, hair slicked back and eyeliner and all that jazz back then. They knocked on the door and I was one that answered the door because I was the manager at the time. And they were like, we just want to double check, like, it's not, this isn't a building full of people like you, is it? Like, there's actually, there's some chicks in there, right? So they initially, like, that, for me, that was funny because it was a really quiet night. The girls were having a shit night and I just had to deal with that, and that was hilarious. Because they're like, oh, we're not going to come in there if it's full of boys. Even though the guys turned up that night and there was 5 of them, 4 of them were completely straight. The one that questioned whether or not it was a brothel full of guys, who I thought was the one that would be the most problematic, ended up being the one that asked me to go into the room in the booking because he booked one of the girls and he wanted to have a threesome with me and the girl. So it's a turn of events. It's quite funny. So not only was the person like, oh yeah, no, couldn't possibly go in there, within half an hour I was having a threesome with the chick who was the one he booked and the guy that questioned whether or not, I don't know if they ever found out that I slept with him because I didn't say anything. I was insane. I had to like handle that in a way where it was kind of like, no, it's all good. There are girls inside. I'm thinking this guy's going to fucking punch me through the door. Like, he's one of those really rugged, like, massively built guys. And I'm like, he's going to snap me like a twig. And then half an hour later, I'm fucking the guy and yeah, the chick's sucking him off and I'm fucking him from behind. And I'm thinking that's a completely weird turn of events because not only did the guy go, oh, is this a brothel for chicks? Why was it getting answered by a gay guy in a singlet and PVC pants? Turned into me fucking him while she blew him. And I was just like...
Hey, my name's Daniel Dalloway. I produced this mini-series. I'd first like to give a big thank you to everybody that agreed to be interviewed for it. I couldn't have done it without your support. If you'd like to watch the uncut interviews, head on over to Patreon. Otherwise, subscribe on YouTube or follow on Instagram, whichever you prefer. And I'll see you for the next episode, which will be hopefully in a week. All right, see you later.